So today what I wanted to talk about in terms of how I use Confer is sort of the three levels that I use it with, which are scheduling meetings, presenting the meeting, and archiving the meeting. And each one of those I've learned a few tips about how you can make a presentation go smoother with a little bit less stress. And I do it by repeating the same steps all the time. And sometimes I have to add in new steps and change them. But luckily, Confer as a tool is a pretty standard set of tools that we can use to present. And so meeting scheduling. So when I go up and set up a meeting, I've started trying to set up 30-minute meetings instead of 1-hour meetings. There's something psychological about having a 1-hour meeting that you then need to fill the time. And so if you can set up an appointment with a student or with a faculty member or whomever you're meeting with, set it for half an hour and see if it works. If it doesn't work, you can always go over. It doesn't cut you off. And so see if you can get a little shorter meetings that way. They can be more effective. A descriptive title. So many times I've been going as a viewer of a activity, and I want to participate in somebody else's desktop seminar or somebody else's lecture, and I can't find it on the list because they have a title for their Confer session that is not particularly descriptive. And so choose a good name when you're scheduling your meetings. And the other thing is, which I've just discovered, is recurring. So making it a recurring meeting, if it is a recurring meeting, gives you the added benefit of you get the same PIN code number that you can use for the whole semester, which is awesome because I want to put it in my syllabus, and I don't want to have 4 pages of my syllabus dedicated to this is the meeting for this day, and this is this one. I can just put it in, and then students can use that all the time. And so it makes it a lot more convenient for everybody. This slide is an example of how I do my office hours. And it's a subtle thing, but I made a slide that I use for my office hours. So instead of students coming in to a blank screen, which maybe you've been doodling on, or maybe every time you go in and you type the same things, I just make a 1-slide PowerPoint presentation that is my office hours slide. It has the same, so this image here is part of the logo that's in my online course. So students know that they're in the right place. The other thing I do with my office hours is I will, as soon as I log in the teleconference bridge immediately. It's on my checklist of things to do, so that then I know what usually happens, at least with my students, is that if they're going to come to office hours, and they've never been before, they don't know how to get online maybe. And so the first thing they're going to do is they're going to default to what they know, which is they're going to call me on the telephone, and they're going to use that call-in number. And if they're calling on the telephone number and the teleconference bridge isn't set up, I'm not going to hear them. I'm just going to be in la-la land over here with my voice over IP set up at home and be like, huh, nobody's showing up to my office hours. So I click that in immediately. I've created a profile, which I notice a lot of people who use Confer don't have profiles set up. And the profile is cool because when you have a list of participants in the room, if you just roll your cursor over them, it will pop up and show the person's profile. So I don't have all that much info in mine. I just have my picture and my email address. But you can put there's a whole host of information that you can or can choose to make public or not in a profile. So presenting. When I present, I usually find that I have way more energy and oomph in my voice if I'm standing up. If it's me sitting at my computer with poor posture and talking into the phone, usually I sound like that. I sound like, oh, what am I? She's not very excitable. And so I'll stand up. And if I'm going to be standing up for a long time and I have a long session, meaning more than a half an hour, I will put on a headset, a wireless headset, so that I can be roaming around and I can use my hands and I can make all sorts of gestures that students may or may not see. And so then I can be as animated as I would be in a classroom. Direct invites. One of the things that I've been loving recently is using these direct invites. So once you're in a session, you can get this direct invite, and then you can post that to your Facebook page, or you can post it to your class, or you can email it out. It's a direct link which lets somebody click something and immediately join into your session. And it's so much easier than directing people back to your syllabus or someplace else. And so these direct invites get people to show up to your session. So the webcam, you'll notice here, even if you look like me and you have a telephone up to your ear, because I'm not wearing my wireless headset at this moment, I find that having the webcam up is very effective. You don't have to have it up the whole length of your session, but for me, I know that I communicate a lot of information in how I use my hands, in the way my face is. When I used to have a radio show, I really trained myself not to say I kept doing that all the time, and when I would listen back to myself, I would stop doing that, and what I replaced it with was silence, which works great in a live situation, but when there's a couple of seconds even of silence in an online presentation, immediately I think, oh, I've lost the connection, the audio's gone, like I'm busy trying to figure out what happened, what's wrong. And so for me, if people can see my face and see that I'm still there and see that my lips aren't moving, then everybody's happy and nobody's complaining that there are little pauses or I stopped in the middle of a sentence. And people know, people can get a better sense, I think, of who I am. And I use Confer in conjunction with an online courses that I've written all the content. And so when people see me and they see me in action, they can read content in a way that they know I wrote it. They know how to hear what they're reading. So the timer. When I start a meeting, I always log in early so that I can load my slides and I can check the audio and make sure everything's going to be working. But I always set up the timer because there's really nothing I hate more than showing up to a presentation on time. I'm there, I'm ready for you to tell me what you're going to do, but then there's nothing there. There's nothing going on. There's no audio. There's no indication that we're going to start, that did I come at the wrong hour? And so I always have the timer because if nothing else, it can entertain my audience. You can watch the timer go down. You know that you're connected. You know that it's another visual indication. And one of the cool things that I just found, because I saw Blaine modeling this, is you can change this title of your timer by just giving it a name when you tell how many minutes you want it to count down from. And so it's a really cool little feature that I use now. The other part of this is that you'll notice that you can make a timer which is visible to everybody or only to you. And so when the timer goes off, I always make the first one public so that my audience waiting for the presentation to start will see what's happening. And then I set another one that just goes to moderators only so that I know I have my own countdown timer that says, oh, you've only got 5 minutes left in your presentation. And so that really helps me stay on track. So in online sessions like in Confer, often what I hear is people talk over each other because there's a slight delay between the phone audio and the voice over IP audio. And one way that I encourage people to participate, which can seem more natural, is using the chat room. And so I love having chat as this back channel. And I never know. You sit and you ask a question and you ask for students to put it into the chat room. And you could sit there and say, well, is anybody doing it? You have to give your students enough time to respond. And you don't know how fast or slow your students type. And so if you can monitor the participant list, it'll show you. So the yellow indicates that Donna, in this example, is typing. And so I know, like, if you're at a session and I were to say, okay, well, office hours are over, and hang up, and somebody's been typing to me, and they've got, maybe they've got a long chat message, and I've now just cut them off. So pay attention to this. You can also see the same with the microphone or the camera, or app sharing, all of the other features. When I start a session, before it starts, I almost always play movies or music, something just to let people know that I'm there. And people always ask me, well, how do you do that? Sometimes I have a very complex setup, but often this low-tech solution where I literally take my phone headset and put it up to the speakers on my computer that are playing music in the background works great, right? I don't care about the fidelity. It's just something there so you know that we're present. So low-tech can work awesome. High-tech is good too. One of the things that I have, I love using application sharing, but recently I've had a lot of need to demo things that are not applications. My normal life, I sort of feel like, oh, I'm always showing people how to use iMovie or how to use something that desktop sharing works with. Well, when I had to show people how to use one of the LiveScribe pens or how I use my iPad, I was stymied. What am I going to do? And I didn't really know how to approach it. And this is the solution that I came up with, which I take my video camera, and I put my video camera shooting down on my desk. Now, you can maybe see my desk is a mess here, but this is an old roll-top desk, which is how I work at my house. And so I have these nice slide-out boards on the edges of the desk, and so which is great because then I can put my tripod right over this slide-out area, or I can put it from the top of the roll-top, and I can shoot the video down that way, and then people can see my hand, so they can see what I'm writing, which is what I don't like so much about the whiteboard. Like it's often there's no hand in the picture. It's weird. It's somehow distracting to me, and so you can see what you're writing. And you can see what I'm pressing on the iPad as well as what's happening on the iPad. And the way I share this is I want a bigger video window than I get with the little webcam. And so I run it into my computer into a video editing application. And so I open up iMovie, or I open up Movie Maker, or I open up QuickTime, anything that can see a video signal, and then I get a big window, as big as I want, and I app share that window. It works great. You just have to slow yourself down. So if you're refreshing a lot of video, that's a lot of lag that you can introduce into the system. And so you might want to speak a little slower or give yourself enough time between topics so that you don't walk all over yourself. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about archives. We all probably know that you can make an archive and that you can get a link to it and leave it online. That's an awesome way to deliver some content to students after the fact. I want to show you Publish and 3C RSS. What Publish lets me do is it lets me take my archives out of Confer. It lets me take them offline, which is important for me because my students are learning how to do audio and video podcasting. And so I like to model the behavior and show them the value of what I'm teaching them. And so with Publish, I can simply put in the URL to my archive, and it does all the work for me. It's one of those times when I'm like, hooray, my computer is working so hard, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee and come back, and the fan will be on, and it'll have done all this work for me. And it takes that archive offline, and you can create self-standing playable files. Movies, you can make them as Java files. You can have that whole archive that now is portable. So if you want to watch it when you don't have an internet connection, you can. I've been taking them, and I've been putting them up on 3C RSS, which is a project from 3C Media, which lets you have server space on the web for free, and most importantly, gives you an ad-free space, doesn't restrict the the duration of your movie. So if you're using YouTube, for instance, you're going to be limited to a certain amount of time, which is usually not enough for my lectures. and so I can put it here, and I can put it on this service, and they will host the file for me. And if I want, I can put it into a feed so that students can then subscribe to it. And then the media just gets delivered to them in a podcast format, if that's what I want. If I don't want it as a podcast, I can just use the URL link and put that link in my course. And then it's my own space. And so 3CRSS is something to check out if you're looking for a place to host all these files. It's been a very effective solution for me. So that's it. Thank you for your attention. Now I'll take questions.
Yes. First of all, I learned a lot already.
Oh, good.
In a very short time, things that I'm not doing. And I'm curious about the 3CRSS, because very often we have archival space, but it's not configured for streaming media. That is, it doesn't have the speed, and then you don't have the bandwidth from it to the next hop. And so I just wanted to know if, in your experience, the 3CRSS has the performance that you need to just smoothly play.
Yeah, it has. I've never had a problem with it. I mean, I could also say that I don't have, if in my dreams I have 10,000 people trying to download the same piece of media at the exact same time, and so I'm not sure how much of a server need I would have anyway. For me, what's great about it is that I was able to, as an individual faculty member, get an account, have all this space, and go for it. I didn't have to go through our IT department. I didn't have to be told that we don't host your media files here, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. It's an easy web server space that works. Totally reliable, wow. Free, and it's backed up for me, right? So then I know that I've got a copy of my archives there that's sitting out someplace where somebody else is responsible for backing it up.
That's huge.
Blaine is responsible for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The truth is, Donna's responsible for helping us to dream this thing up. We just didn't like iTunes very much.
Right.
And so this way, you're platform independent. You can really do anything you want with it. And for me, it's such a sense of security knowing that I don't have a file limit. I don't have a size up limit so that I can send up whatever kind of file I want. It's mine. It's like my server space provided by the Chancellor's office. So.
I'm going to hit you up later to learn more about 3CRSS. But the other thing that I wanted to find out was that many faculty who create media don't want to put them up on YouTube, even if they restrict the use because of the potential for not meeting the limitations of fair use. And so is this like some other, like EduStream, where it's a private just to a certain group?
So it's not locked down
internet.
to having a referring URL in the same way that EduStream is. It's not, I guess I don't know how to answer that question fully, I think. It's not, it's security by obscurity, maybe.
Well, let me ask it a different way. Do you know whether a web crawler can crawl 3CRSS and add it to Google? Add its contents to Google. That's kind of the key. If you can't, then it's sort of off the grid, and then people are not using it and aware of it.
Yeah, I don't know that answer.
Okay.
I don't either, to be honest.
Okay. But
I doubt it.
it sounds like the answer is it's not, and that's a good thing because it provides that level of security or privacy for the material that you've put so that you know just the people that you want to see it are seeing it and not the whole world.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of this solution, I mean, why we started doing this is because when I was teaching faculty how to make podcasts, they all came to me with the same problem, which is my college won't let me host this media on their servers. I can't get FTP access to the server. I don't have enough file space, and I don't want to write XML. And so this is the solution to all of those problems, which is that you have plenty of space, you can use it however you choose, and it will write the XML for you if you want to have a podcast. You can just add episodes in with a simple web interface instead of having to sit down and check if your parentheses are matching and debugging code. And so with this, I was able to remove Feed Validator out of my list of bookmarks because I don't have to check people's XML anymore. And frankly, I wish it was available to my City College San Francisco students because I'm back, I still have to do it for them, and they don't really have a good solution, and the school isn't providing them a hosting place. And so this has been a real relief for me.